of. Here is what this session covers. Part A, basic concepts, procurement, the app or PPMP, and PAPs. Part B, governing principles and general policies. Part C, the 11 modes of procurement under RA number 12009. Part D, where the property or supply officer fits in the cycle. Part E, legal and regulatory basis, consolidated. Part F, 20 common misconceptions. Part G, 20 pitfalls and corrections. Part H, 20 audit deficiencies. Part 1, 15 challenging questions. Keep this arc in mind. We start with the basic concepts and planning documents, move into governing principles and the 11 modes of procurement, then connect all of it specifically to the property or supply officer's own role, before testing your understanding at the end. Next slide. Part A, basic concepts. Procurement, the planning documents that authorize it, and the operational content that drives it. This part sets up 3 ideas you need before anything else makes sense. What procurement actually means in law, the planning documents that must exist before any purchase, and the operational content, the PAPs, that drives those plans. Next slide. Here is the text of the provision, read exactly as written. Procurement refers to the acquisition of goods and consulting services, and the contracting for infrastructure projects by the procuring entity. Procurement shall also include the lease of goods and real property. In a bit more detail, notice how broad this legal definition actually is. It is not just about buying goods off a shelf, it explicitly includes consulting services, infrastructure contracting, and even the lease of goods and real property. If a transaction fits any of these categories, procurement law applies to it. Next slide. The Annual Procurement Plan and the PPMP. The Annual Procurement Plan, APP, consolidates all of a procuring entity's procurement requirements for the year and must, at minimum, state the project name, the end-user unit, a general description, the procurement method to be used, bid evaluation criteria, time schedule, source of funds, and the approved budget for the contract. No government procurement may be undertaken unless it is in accordance with the approved app or indicative app. This is an absolute prerequisite, not a formality to be completed after the fact. The Project Procurement Management Plan, PPMP, is prepared per project or per end-user unit, built on market scoping, cost estimation, specifications, delivery lead time, storage or warehousing requirements, and related market information, before it feeds into the consolidated app. Now, in a bit more detail, the single most important sentence on this slide is the one about the app being an absolute prerequisite. Not a best practice, not a recommendation, no procurement may proceed without it. If you remember one fact from this entire slide, remember that. Next slide. Programs, activities and projects, PAPs. PAPs are the operations and functions of the end-user units, the actual programs, activities, and projects an office carries out to meet its mandate and the agency's objectives. PAPs are the content of the PPMP. Every procurement item in a PPMP should trace back to a specific PAP that needs it. For the property or supply office, understanding an end-user unit's PAPs is what allows it to anticipate storage, warehousing, and common use supply requirements before the PPMP is even finalized. Now, in a bit more detail, think of PAPs as the why behind every what in a PPMP. Every line item in a procurement plan should be traceable to a specific program, activity, or project an end-user unit is actually running. If it isn't, that is a red flag worth investigating before the purchase proceeds, not after. Next slide. Tip: PAPs drive the PPMP, and the PPMP drives the app. Working backward from a purchase request that has no clear PAP behind it is a common source of audit questions. When reviewing or preparing a PPMP entry, always be able to answer, which program, activity, or project does this item support, and is that PAP already reflected in the office's approved plans? In a bit more detail, this tip is really a diagnostic question you can apply to any purchase request that crosses your desk. Trace it backward. If you cannot connect an item to a specific program, activity, or project, that disconnect is exactly what an auditor will ask about first. Next slide. Part B, Governing Principles and General Policies. The 8 principles that govern every procurement transaction, and the general policies that operationalize them. This part covers the 8 governing principles every procurement transaction must respect, and the general policies that put those principles into practice, including 2 rules, standardization and the prohibition on splitting. that come up constantly in audit findings. Next slide. The 8 governing principles on government procurement. Transparency, open access to information at every stage of procurement, consistent with open contracting practice. Competitiveness, equal opportunity for all eligible and qualified suppliers, manufacturers, distributors, contractors, consultants, and service providers. Efficiency, an organized, uniform, and straightforward process using emerging technologies and innovative solutions. Proportionality, conditions and parameters reasonably proportional to the procuring entity's needs and the nature of the contract. Accountability, public officials and personnel directly or indirectly involved in procurement are held accountable for their actions. Participatory procurement, public monitoring of the process and contract implementation. Sustainability, value for money and maximum benefit to society and the economy across the property's whole lifecycle, with minimal environmental impact. Professionalism, qualification standards, competency and certification frameworks, and the code of ethics for procurement professionals. Now, in a bit more detail, these 8 principles are worth memorizing in order, because exam questions frequently ask you to name them or match a scenario to the specific principle it illustrates: transparency, competitiveness, efficiency, proportionality, accountability, participatory procurement, sustainability, and professionalism. Next slide. General policies that operationalize the principles. Standardization, the procurement process and forms are standardized wherever practicable, through GPPB-issued generic manuals and standard bidding forms that are mandatory for all procuring entities. Prohibition on splitting, a procuring entity may not divide or break up contracts into smaller quantities or artificial phases for the purpose of evading or circumventing the requirements of the law and its IRR. Procurement per unit, lot, or package remains allowed where justified by budget, quantity, product availability, delivery sites, or market capacity. Procurement of common use supplies and equipment, CSE. All procuring entities must source their CSE from the procurement service of the DBM, PS, DBM, first, subject to availability. Other sources may be used only where PS, DBM stock is unavailable or for documented efficiency, practicality, or economic reasons. Now, in a bit more detail, of these 3 policies, the splitting prohibition is the one most frequently tested and most frequently violated in practice. Keep it in mind specifically, since we will return to it with the exact statutory language on the next slide. Next slide. Here is the text of the provision, read exactly as written. In using any of the modes of procurement under Article 4 of this Act, the procuring entity shall ensure that this does not result in splitting of government contracts, which involves dividing or breaking up of contracts into smaller quantities and amounts, or dividing contract implementation into artificial phases or subcontracts for the purpose of evading or circumventing the requirements of this Act and its IRR. In a bit more detail, the word to focus on here is artificial. Splitting a genuine, single requirement into smaller pieces specifically to dodge a higher threshold mode is what the law prohibits. It is not about the size of individual purchase orders in isolation, it is about the intent and effect of dividing one real requirement into several. Next slide. Warning: shopping is no longer a recognized mode. Under the old Government Procurement Reform Act, RA number 9184, shopping was a named alternative mode. RA number 12009 does not carry this term forward. Current transactions that would previously have been called shopping now fall under direct acquisition, Section 32, or small value procurement, Section 34, depending on the amount and circumstances. Forms, templates, and staff habits still using the old term should be corrected. In a bit more detail, this is one of the most practically important corrections in this entire session, because old habits die hard in government offices. If you still hear colleagues talking about shopping as a procurement mode, that language is outdated. Mentally translate it to direct acquisition or small value procurement depending on the amount involved. Next slide. Part C, the 11 modes of procurement. RA number 12009 organizes procurement around a fit-for-purpose approach, with competitive bidding as the default and 10 defined alternative modes. This part works through all 11 modes of procurement under the new Government Procurement Act, with particular emphasis on the 4 modes a property or supply office deals with most often. Next slide. Overview of the 11 modes. A. Competitive bidding, the default mode. may be adopted in any procurement notwithstanding the availability of other modes. B. Limited source bidding. C. Competitive dialogue. D. Unsolicited offer with bid matching, participation limited or negotiation-based bidding variants for specialized or complex requirements. E. Direct contracting. F. Direct acquisition. G. Repeat order. H. Small value procurement, streamlined modes for proprietary items, lower value purchases, and replenishment. 1. Negotiated procurement, allowed only in the specific instances the law enumerates. J. Direct sales. K. Direct procurement for science, technology and innovation, newly codified modes introduced by RA number 12009. Now, in a bit more detail. Do not try to memorize every detail of all 11 modes at once. Instead, notice the grouping. Competitive bidding is the default, 3 modes are limited participation or negotiation-based variants of bidding, 4 are streamlined modes for specific situations, and the remaining 3 are for negotiated, sold, or newly codified circumstances. Next slide. Modes most relevant to the property or supply office. Direct acquisition, SEC. 32. A procuring entity may procure directly from any known and reputable sources required non-C. SEs and CSEs not available at PS, DBM, and services, with an ABC not exceeding 200,000 pesos, subject to periodic GPPB adjustment. Small value procurement, SEC. 34. Requests at least 3 price quotations for goods, infrastructure, or consulting services not available at PS, DBM. Receipt of even 1 quotation is sufficient to proceed, provided the amount does not exceed 2 million pesos, subject to periodic GPPB adjustment and, for LGUs, income classification-based adjustment. Repeat order, SEC. 33, allows procuring goods from the previous winning bidder to replenish a prior contract, at a unit price equal to or lower than the original, availed only within 6 months of the original notice to proceed, and capped at 25% of the original contract quantity per item. Procurement of CSE, SEC. 40. The standing requirement to source common use supplies and equipment from PS, DBM first, before considering any other source. Now, in a bit more detail. These 4 modes are worth knowing cold, because they are the ones your own office will actually encounter most often. Direct acquisition for smaller non-catalog purchases, small value procurement for slightly larger ones, repeat order for replenishing a prior contract, and the standing requirement to check PS, DBM first for common use items. Next slide. Competitive and limited participation modes. Competitive bidding, SEC. 27. Open to any eligible bidder. Publication, pre-bid conference, eligibility screening, receipt and opening of bids, evaluation, post-qualification, and award of contract. Limited source bidding, SEC. 28. Direct invitation to a set of pre-selected suppliers or consultants with known experience, used for highly specialized goods or services, major plant components, or highly specialized infrastructure affecting national security. Competitive dialogue, SEC. 29. A 2-stage process where suppliers are invited to a dialogue to propose solutions, used for innovative or complex requirements where specifications cannot yet be precisely defined. Unsolicited offer with bid matching, SEC. 30. Allows the government to consider an unsolicited offer involving a new concept or technology, awarded to the original offerer if no comparative bid beats it. Now, in a bit more detail. The distinguishing feature across these 4 modes is how open participation is. Fully open for competitive bidding, limited to pre-selected suppliers for limited source bidding, a structured dialogue for competitive dialogue, and a single original offerer with a chance for others to match for unsolicited offer with bid matching. Next slide. Direct and negotiated modes. Direct contracting, SEC. 31. For goods of proprietary nature obtainable only from a proprietary source, patents, trade secrets, copyrights, critical components tied to a contractor's performance guarantee, or exclusive dealer situations with no suitable substitute. Negotiated procurement, SEC. 35. Allowed only in enumerated instances, 2 failed biddings, emergency cases, takeover of rescinded or terminated contracts, adjacent or contiguous contracts, agency-to-agency procurement, scientific or scholarly or artistic work, highly technical individual consultants, defense cooperation, lease of real property or venue, NGO or community participation, and a defined set of others. Direct sales, SEC. 36 allows a procuring entity to directly purchase non-CSEs from a supplier that has already satisfactorily delivered the same items to another government agency under a completed, bidded contract, within strict conditions and a 6-month window. Direct procurement for science, technology and innovation, SEC. 37, for research and development supplies, commissioned goods, and pre-commercial or startup manufactured goods. Now, in a bit more detail. Direct contracting is really about a single seller who is the only lawful source. Think patents, trade secrets, or exclusive dealerships. Negotiated procurement, by contrast, is a long list of specific, enumerated situations, and the exam trap is assuming any inconvenient situation qualifies when the law actually requires one of the named circumstances. Next slide. Caution. Thresholds move. Always verify the current GPPB adjusted amount. The 200,000 pesos direct acquisition ceiling and the 2 million pesos small value procurement ceiling are the amounts stated in RA number 12,009 itself, but the law expressly authorizes the GPPB to adjust both thresholds periodically. Before relying on a peso figure for a transaction, confirm whether a GPPB issuance has since revised it. Do not assume the statutory figure is still the operative one without checking. In a bit more detail, the specific peso figures in this session, 200,000 for direct acquisition, 2 million for small value procurement, are the amounts written into the law itself, but the law also gives the GPPB power to adjust them. Treat these numbers as your starting point, not as numbers you can quote blindly without checking whether a more recent GPPB issuance has moved them. Next slide. Part D, where the property or supply officer fits. Procurement does not end with the Bids and Awards Committee, it connects directly into the property cycle this course covers. This part is the bridge between procurement law and your actual job. How your office's input shapes the PPMP before a purchase happens, and what your office is responsible for once goods start arriving. Next slide. Upstream, feeding the PPMP and market scoping. The property or supply office is typically the office best positioned to supply market scoping input on storage and warehousing requirements, delivery lead times, and prior consumption patterns for recurring items. Accurate PPMP input from the property or supply office reduces the risk of over-ordering, under-ordering, or specifying items the agency has no adequate space to store. Where an item is a common-use supply or equipment item, the property or supply office's records of PS. DBM catalog availability are the starting point for choosing between CSE procurement and direct acquisition. Now, in a bit more detail, this is the part of procurement law that most directly involves your own daily work, even though it happens before a purchase order ever exists. The market scoping input your office supplies is what keeps the eventual purchase realistic in terms of storage space, delivery timing, and whether PS. DBM can supply it. Next slide. Downstream. Receipt, warehousing, and the link to custodianship. RA number 12,009 explicitly allows procuring entities to adopt a warehousing and cloud-based inventory system for procured goods, a function that sits naturally with the property or supply office rather than the BAC. Once a contract is awarded and goods are delivered, responsibility shifts to inspection and acceptance, and then to the custodianship controls covered in this course's other sessions. The procurement mode used should be traceable in the property record for audit purposes. The lease of movable government property, vehicles, equipment, is itself a procurement transaction requiring an applicable mode. It is not exempt simply because no ownership transfer occurs. Now, in a bit more detail, notice that procurement law does not stop at the award of a contract. It explicitly authorizes a warehousing and inventory system, and it treats even the lease of a vehicle as a procurement transaction. Property and procurement are far more connected than the org chart might suggest. Next slide. Part E, legal and regulatory basis. The current, controlling issuances for this session, RA number 9184 references have been fully superseded and are not carried forward. This part consolidates every legal citation used throughout the session into one place, for quick reference. Next slide. Consolidated legal and regulatory basis. Republic Act No. 12,009, New Government Procurement Act, the controlling law for this session, revising and replacing Republic Act No. 9184, Government Procurement Reform Act, in its entirety. Implementing rules and regulations of RA No. 12,009, issued by the GPPB pursuant to Section 112 of the Act, detailing the specific terms and conditions for the application of each mode of procurement. GPPB issuances and resolutions adjusting monetary thresholds, forms, and guidelines under RA number 12009 always consult the current issuance in force rather than relying solely on the statutory figures. Now, in a bit more detail, take a moment to connect this back to the general principle introduced earlier in this session, since that is the thread tying every slide together. The new Government Procurement Act has fully replaced the old Government Procurement Reform Act, and every citation in this session reflects the current law. Next slide. Part F, 20 Common Misconceptions. Each entry pairs a commonly held but incorrect belief with the accurate rule under RA number 12009. This part tests your understanding by presenting 20 commonly held but incorrect beliefs about procurement, each paired with the accurate rule under the new Government Procurement Act. Next slide. 20 Common Misconceptions. Number 1. Myth. Shopping is still a valid mode of procurement. Fact. RA number 12009 does not include shopping among its 11 modes. The closest current equivalents are direct acquisition and small value procurement. Number 2. Myth. Procurement covers only goods and infrastructure, not consulting services. Fact. Procurement is defined to cover goods, consulting services, and the contracting for infrastructure projects, as well as the lease of goods and real property. Next slide. 20 Common Misconceptions. Number 3. Myth. An agency may proceed with a purchase first and prepare the app entry afterward. Fact. No government procurement may be undertaken unless it is in accordance with the approved app or indicative app. Number 4. Myth. The PPMP is prepared solely by the Budget Office, with no input from property or supply. Fact. The PPMP is built on market scoping, which includes storage, warehousing, and CSE-related input that naturally comes from the Property or Supply Office. Next slide. 20 Common Misconceptions. Number 5. Myth. Competitive bidding may only be used when no alternative mode applies. Fact. A procuring entity may adopt competitive bidding in any of its procurement activities, notwithstanding the applicability of other modes. Number 6. Myth. Direct acquisition may be used for any amount, as long as the item is unavailable at PSDBM. Fact. Direct acquisition is capped at an ABC not exceeding 200,000 pesos, subject to periodic GPPB adjustment. Next slide. 20 Common Misconceptions. Number 7. Myth. Small value procurement always requires at least 3 price quotations to proceed. Fact. The receipt of even one quotation is sufficient to proceed with evaluation, provided the ABC does not exceed 2 million pesos. Number 8. Myth. A repeat order can be availed of at any time and for any quantity. Fact. Repeat order is limited to within 6 months of the original notice to proceed and may not exceed 25% of the original contract quantity per item. Next slide. 20 Common Misconceptions. Number 9. Myth. Splitting a purchase into smaller POs is fine as long as each falls under a different mode's threshold. Fact. Dividing or breaking up contracts to evade procurement requirements, including through artificial phasing, is expressly prohibited as splitting. Number 10. Myth. All common use supplies and equipment must always come from PSDBM, no exceptions. Fact. Agencies may procure CSEs from other sources where PSDBM stock is unavailable, or for documented efficiency, practicality, or economic reasons. Next slide. 20 Common Misconceptions. Number 11. Myth. Negotiated procurement may be used whenever competitive bidding is inconvenient. Fact. Negotiated procurement is allowed only in the specific instances the law enumerates, such as 2 failed biddings or emergency cases. Number 12. Myth. The BAC alone is responsible for the entire procurement process. Fact. The end-user or implementing unit, which includes the property or supply function for common use items, prepares the technical specifications and requirements the procurement is based on. Next slide. 20 Common Misconceptions. Number 13. Myth. The approved budget for the contract, ABC, is only an estimate, bids may exceed it. Fact. The ABC is the ceiling for bid prices. A bid that exceeds the ABC is disqualified outright. Number 14. Myth. A bidding with only one responsive bidder automatically fails. Fact. A single calculated or rated or economically advantageous and responsive bid may still be considered for award under specific conditions set by law. Next slide. 20 common misconceptions. Number 15. Myth: warehousing and inventory systems fall outside the scope of the procurement law. Fact: RA number 12009 explicitly authorizes procuring entities to adopt a warehousing and cloud-based inventory system for procured goods. Number 16. Myth: leasing equipment or vehicles is exempt from procurement rules since no purchase occurs. Fact: the lease of movable properties is itself subject to government procurement using the most applicable mode. Next slide. 20 common misconceptions. Number 17. Myth: framework agreements and pooled procurement are not yet recognized under Philippine law. Fact: RA number 12009 explicitly authorizes framework agreements and pooled procurement as procurement strategies. Number 18. Myth: a prohibited relationship between a bidder and agency personnel is fine as long as it is disclosed. Fact: relation to the head of the procuring entity, BAC, TWG, Secretariat, or end-user head within the third civil degree automatically disqualifies the bidder, regardless of disclosure. Next slide. 20 common misconceptions. Number 19. Myth: domestic bidders always win over foreign bidders regardless of the price difference. Fact: domestic preference applies only where the domestic bid is not more than 25% in excess of the lowest foreign bid, subject to further conditions. Number 20. Myth: procurement law concerns only the Bids and Awards Committee, not the property or supply function. Fact: procurement, receipt, custody, and disposal are stages of one continuous property lifecycle in which the property or supply office has a direct, ongoing role. Next slide. Part G. 20 pitfalls and corrections. Recurring operational weaknesses at the intersection of procurement and property or supply management. This part shifts from beliefs to behavior. 20 recurring operational mistakes actually seen in the procurement-property intersection, and the specific correction for each one. Next slide. 20 pitfalls and corrections. Number 1. Pitfall: PPMP input from the property or supply office lacks any market scoping data. Correction: conduct basic market scoping, supplier consultation, price sourcing, fill gaps data review, before submitting PPMP input. Number 2. Pitfall: CSE items are sourced from outside suppliers without first checking PS, DBM availability. Correction: verify PS, DBM stock or catalog availability first, and document unavailability before sourcing elsewhere. Next slide. 20 pitfalls and corrections. Number 3. Pitfall: a large requirement is split into several requests just under a mode's peso threshold. Correction: consolidate related requirements into a single procurement package size to the actual need. Number 4. Pitfall: repeat orders are processed more than 6 months after the original notice to proceed. Correction: track the 6-month window from the original NTP. Use ordinary procurement once it lapses. Next slide. 20 pitfalls and corrections. Number 5. Pitfall: a purchase request is issued without confirming the item is in the approved app and funds are certified. Correction: confirm app inclusion and fund certification, ABC, CAF, before initiating the request. Number 6. Pitfall: specifications name a specific brand with no documented justification. Correction: base specifications on characteristics, performance, or standards. Reserve brand references for documented technical compatibility needs. Next slide. 20 pitfalls and corrections. Number 7. Pitfall: delivered goods are accepted into custody before verifying them against the awarded contract. Correction: require property or supply personnel to check delivered items against the contract and inspection report before acknowledging receipt. Number 8. Pitfall: newly procured goods are warehoused informally, with no inventory system tracking incoming stock. Correction: adopt a warehousing and inventory system, manual or cloud-based, proportionate to the volume handled. Next slide. 20 pitfalls and corrections. Number 9. Pitfall: the property or supply office does not track which mode of procurement was used for an item. Correction: maintain a simple procurement mode log per PO or contract so receiving and recording staff know which rules applied. Number 10. Pitfall: a staff member related to a bidder helps set technical specifications without disclosure. Correction: require disclosure of relations checks for all personnel involved in specification setting, not only BAC members. Next slide. 20 pitfalls and corrections. Number 11. Pitfall: lease of agency vehicles or equipment is arranged informally, without any procurement mode. Correction: treat the lease of movable property as a procurement transaction requiring the applicable mode. Number 12. Pitfall: disposal is only considered once an asset is already unserviceable. Correction: consider disposal measures at the procurement planning stage, as part of developing the project's requirements. Next slide. 20 pitfalls and corrections. Number 13. Pitfall: property records still use pre-RA number 12009 mode names such as shopping. Correction: update templates and forms to use current RA number 12009 mode names and section references. Number 14. Pitfall: small value procurement is used for items actually available at PS. DBM. Correction: confirm PS. DBM non-availability first. Small value procurement applies only to items not available through PS. DBM. Next slide. 20 pitfalls and corrections. Number 15. Pitfall: no written proof of PS. DBM stock unavailability is kept before sourcing CSE elsewhere. Correction: obtain and file written confirmation of non-availability as supporting audit evidence. Number 16. Pitfall: procurement files handed to the property or supply office are incomplete, missing PO, IAR, delivery receipt. Correction: require a complete, checklist verified procurement folder to accompany every item turned over to custody. Next slide. 20 pitfalls and corrections. Number 17. Pitfall: recurring supply needs are processed repeatedly as separate one-off annual purchases. Correction: evaluate whether a framework agreement or renewal of regular or recurring services better fits recurring needs. Number 18. Pitfall: sustainability criteria are ignored in specifications for routine supply purchases. Correction: where applicable, integrate basic sustainability criteria consistent with the agency's green public procurement obligations. Next slide. 20 pitfalls and corrections. Number 19. Pitfall: the property or supply office assumes procurement protests do not affect its planning. Correction: track pending protests on relevant contracts, since a protest can delay the delivery schedules the office plans around. Number 20. Pitfall: contract documents are filed only with the BAC Secretariat, with no property or supply copy retained. Correction: maintain a property or supply office copy of the contract, PO, and award documents for cross-reference during receipt and recording. Next slide. Part H. 20 audit deficiencies. Findings typically raised at the intersection of procurement and property or supply management, matched to the provision each violates. This part presents 20 audit findings in the exact style you will see in a real audit observation memorandum, each tied to the provision it violates. Next slide. 20 audit deficiencies. Number 1. Deficiency: procurement undertaken without an approved app or indicative app covering the item. Number 2. Deficiency: splitting of contracts to avoid competitive bidding or to fit within a lower threshold mode. Next slide. 20 audit deficiencies. Number 3. Deficiency: direct acquisition used for amounts exceeding the 200,000 pesos threshold without GPPB approved adjustment. Number 4. Deficiency: small value procurement used for amounts exceeding the 2 million pesos threshold without GPPB approved adjustment. Next slide. 20 audit deficiencies. Number 5. Deficiency: repeat orders availed beyond the 6-month window or exceeding 25% of the original contract quantity. Number 6. Deficiency: CSE procured from outside sources without documented proof of PS. DBM unavailability. Next slide. 20 audit deficiencies. Number 7. Deficiency: bid awarded at a price exceeding the approved budget for the contract. Number 8. Deficiency: negotiated procurement resorted to outside the specific instances enumerated by law. Next slide. 20 audit deficiencies. Number 9. Deficiency: absence of a disclosure of relations affidavit, or failure to act on a disclosed prohibited relationship. Number 10. Deficiency: Lease of movable government property arranged without any procurement mode applied. Next slide. 20. Audit deficiencies. Number 11. Deficiency. Technical specifications referencing a specific brand without documented technical justification. Number 12. Deficiency. No warehousing or inventory system in place despite a significant volume of procured goods on hand. Next slide. 20. Audit deficiencies. Number 13. Deficiency. Property or supply records still using superseded RA number 9184 mode terminology inconsistent with current law. Number 14. Deficiency. Mandatory video recording of procurement-related conferences omitted for competitive biddings above threshold. Next slide. 20. Audit deficiencies. Number 15. Deficiency. PPMP submitted without evidence of market scoping, no price sourcing or technical basis on file. Number 16. Deficiency. Disposal considerations entirely absent from procurement planning documentation. Next slide. 20. Audit deficiencies. Number 17. Deficiency. Delivered goods accepted into custody without a completed inspection and acceptance report matching the contract. Number 18. Deficiency. Recurring supply needs processed repeatedly as separate ad hoc purchases instead of a framework agreement. Next slide. 20. Audit deficiencies. Number 19. Deficiency. Domestic preference improperly applied or disregarded contrary to the prescribed 25% margin rule. Number 20. Deficiency. No procurement mode documentation retained by the Property or Supply Office, precluding verification during audit. Next slide. Part 1. 15 challenging questions. A mixed format comprehension check, true or false, error spotting, multiple choice, and short scenarios, for self-testing at an advanced level. This final part is a genuine comprehension check. 15 challenging questions in a mix of formats, designed to test whether you actually understood the material. Next slide. 15 challenging questions. Number 1. Q. True or false. Under RA number 12009, procurement covers only goods and infrastructure projects, not consulting services. False. Procurement covers goods, consulting services, and the contracting for infrastructure projects, plus the lease of goods and real property. Number 2. Q. Spot the error. An agency may proceed with any purchase as long as funds are available, even without an approved app. Correct the statement. No procurement may be undertaken unless it is in accordance with the approved app or indicative app. Fund availability alone is not sufficient. Next slide. 15 challenging questions. Number 3. Q. Multiple choice. Which mode replaced the old RA number 9184 concept of shopping for lower value purchases? A. Limited source bidding. B. Direct contracting. C. Direct acquisition and small value procurement. D. Competitive dialogue. A. C. Direct acquisition, SEC 32, and small value procurement, SEC 34, together absorbed what? Shopping, covered under the old law. Number 4. Q. True or false. A single quotation is never sufficient to proceed under small value procurement. False. Receipt of even one quotation is sufficient to proceed with evaluation, provided the ABC does not exceed 2 million pesos. Next slide. 15 challenging questions. Number 5. Q. Scenario. An agency splits a 600,000 pesos requirement into 3 200,000 pesos purchase orders processed on different dates to fit under the direct acquisition ceiling. Is this permissible? A. No. This is prohibited splitting of contracts under Section 39, regardless of how the transactions are dated or packaged. Number 6. Q. Spot the error. Repeat order may be availed of at any time within 1 year from the original notice to proceed, for any quantity needed. Correct both errors. The window is 6 months, not 1 year, and the quantity may not exceed 25% of the original contract quantity per item. Next slide. 15 challenging questions. Number 7. Q. True or false. Common use supplies and equipment must always be sourced from PSDBM with no exceptions. False. Other sources may be used where PSDBM stock is unavailable or for documented efficiency, practicality, or economic reasons. Number 8. Q. Multiple choice. Which is not one of the enumerated instances allowing negotiated procurement? A. 2 failed biddings. B. Agency preference for a familiar supplier. C. Emergency cases. D. Agency-to-agency procurement. A. B. Negotiated procurement is allowed only in the specific instances the law enumerates. Mere agency preference is not one of them. Next slide. 15 challenging questions. Number 9. Q. Scenario. A bid exceeds the approved budget for the contract but is otherwise the most technically sound proposal received. Should the BAC award it? A. No. The ABC is a hard ceiling. A bid exceeding it is disqualified outright regardless of technical merit. Number 10. Q. True or false. A bidder related to the head of the procuring entity within the 4th civil degree of consanguinity is automatically disqualified. A. False. The disqualifying degree is the 3rd civil degree of consanguinity or affinity, not the 4th. Next slide. 15 challenging questions. Number 11. Q. Spot the error. The lease of government vehicles is exempt from procurement rules since no transfer of ownership occurs. Correct the error. A. The lease of movable property is itself subject to procurement using the most applicable mode. Absence of ownership transfer does not exempt it. Number 12. Q. Multiple choice. The award criterion newly introduced by RA number 12009 alongside the lowest calculated responsive bid is A. Best value bid. B. Most economically advantageous responsive bid. MEARB. C. Technical superiority bid. D. Preferred vendor bid. A. B. MEARB is the new criterion using a quality price ratio alongside the traditional LCRB, HRRB framework. Next slide. 15 challenging questions. Number 13. Q. True or false. Domestic bidders automatically win over foreign bidders regardless of the price difference. A. False. Domestic preference applies only where the domestic bid is not more than 25% in excess of the lowest foreign bid and is subject to further conditions. Number 14. Q. Scenario. The property or supply office wants CSE not currently listed in the PS, DBM catalogue. What must it do before sourcing elsewhere? A. Confirm and document PS, DBM's non-availability of the item before proceeding to source it from another supplier. Next slide. 15 challenging questions. Number 15. Q. Spot the error. Framework agreements are a proposed reform not yet recognized under current Philippine procurement law. Correct the statement. A. Framework agreements are explicitly authorized under RA number 12009 as a procurement strategy, not merely a proposal. Next slide. End of session 2.